Byron, 11 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. Our next guest into the Daily Connerton Memorial Company interview chair. Well, I'll tell you, he's one of our favorite senators here in the state of Connecticut. He knows what it's like to own a business, and even a restaurant. He's got a restaurant down at the down on the shoreline called Flanders Fish Market. So you listen, he knows what it's like. He's in the trenches right there with other restaurateurs in the state. Let's welcome back to the show State Senator Paul Formica. Paul, good morning. Are you there, Paul?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, there he is.
There you go. Good morning. Something happened. We went off. Good morning. How are you, sir?
It's nice to hear your voice. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We're doing okay. We're getting through it. We're zooming through the session.
Yeah, zooming through the session, no pun intended. Yeah, but you're right in many regards, because not only are you're being part of the Zoom committee meetings rather than the in person in the LOB, but the session seems to be flying right by. I think a lot of the bills are being JF'd already, right?
Yeah, it's coming down to where committee work is closing out, and they're putting the final language on some of these bills and getting them ready to send to the House and the Senate for vote, which is, we're going to be doing in person to a certain extent. The Senate just got a new scoreboard like the House, where it allows now everybody in the General Assembly to vote from their office through a computer.
Is it temporary, though, or is they going to use that going forward, you think?
It's an interesting question, Gary, whether, what's going to stick and what's not going to stick. I mean, I think Zooming to a certain extent is probably here to stay, whether the pandemic, it finishes or not, just because, it's a way to get a lot of people into the conversation in certain situations, although it seems to preclude getting people into conversations in other situations.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people will still use it. And, they have all this money in the scoreboard. I would guess they'd probably use it. I can't imagine they'd turn it off after a period of time. But, now they're allowing, you can vote from your car as long as you're on the Capitol grounds. They send a runner out, and with a piece of paper it said bill number XYZ. This is your name. You sign it, voting yay or nay.
Yeah, this is your name.
Run back into to the chamber and logged. So
this is your name. This is your legislature. Voting from their car. Wow.
Yeah.
How the times have changed, as they say.
Yeah. And we're opening the state.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's great. What's the argument about keeping the Capitol closed? I think we're going to, people still can't go in. It's legislators only and some staff. But,
Senator, I'm a little confused because, I just heard you say you were opening the state, but then I also heard you say people can vote from their office in their car, and that doesn't sound very open to me, Senator.
Well, certainly the Capitol is not. The Capitol is closed, and I think that's going to be the next conversation.
That's the people's building.
Open the state. Why can't we open the Capitol? Let the people in the people's house.
I couldn't agree more. Senator, I know that you are the ranking. You rank on the Energy Committee. Talk about the ouster of the Eversource CEO this week.
Well, interesting that, Mr. Judge, I guess, has been the CEO of Eversource on a multi-state level, not just here in Connecticut. They've shifted their operations pretty much, their headquarter operations away from Connecticut. They have very limited presence here now. They're in Massachusetts. And I think one of the things the Energy Committee wants to do is to get more people from Eversource back in Connecticut so that they have a good feel about what's going on in Connecticut. But Mr. Judge got, I think he's now chairman of the board or something, and Mr. Nolan is now in his place. And, part of it, I think, was the performance last summer when we were discussing the Take Back the Grid Act. And, there was a bit of arrogance in Mr. Judge's testimony, and perhaps it was just time. I think he's been there a while.
Mm-hmm. Will you still be holding the utilities accountable, and because the rates keep rising?
Well, one of the things that we did do back in September is switch the process. I heard you talk about rate increases over the next 10 years. It has to be on performance base now, and they have to convince Pura that they did a good job and deserve the rate increase. And you saw the recent ruling by Pura that said, hey guys, you really didn't do a good job back in the summer tropical storm. We all knew that. Mayors and first selectmen knew that. Business owners knew that. But it was gratifying to see Pura hold them accountable. And I think one of the most important bills the Energy Committee undertook this year was the separation of the regulatory body in Pura and DEEP, who has taken over the energy policy discussion for the state. And, they're embedded under DEEP. And I think we need to give Pura a little bit more teeth. I think they need a little bit more staff. And I think they, need the opportunity to really dive in to some of these process and procedures that the utilities have, so that we can get a handle on, where their money's going, what they're doing, and, why are they asking for rate increases, and let's provide more transparency on their bills.
Yeah. Transparency is a word that not many people know how to say it. They know what it means, but they don't like to enact, particularly when it comes to themselves. They would like other people to have transparency or other governments to have transparency, but for itself, no, don't watch me. I got to ask you this question. You're one of the few business owners in the Senate. The people that are making laws, though, some of your colleagues, they have. I don't mean to sound so blunt, Senator, and I say this with absolute respect, but some of them have no clue with what they're doing.
It's hard to make. Yeah, you're right, Gary. I mean, it's hard to make legislation or craft legislation on business when you've never had to make a payroll.
Exactly.
It's hard to put restrictions on cities and towns when you've never held local office. You've never been a CEO at a mayor or first selectman in a community to understand what it's like. And I think that's evident in what's going on. I mean, this legislature has taken a drastic turn to the left this session, and we're seeing that. As they're trying to really impose themselves on our lives more and more and in more ways. So I think you're absolutely right. It should be some requirement where you have more experience in some of these areas before you get a legislature.
Yeah,
in the legislature. But what can you do? I mean, you go back to the beginning, and it was, people would work in their shops and their farms, and they'd come in and do the business of the country or the state, and they'd go back to work.
But you have to have some experience if you're going to sit on a committee. There's 20 committees. You don't have to have experience on all, with everything. Certainly nobody does. But I mean, there's got to be a couple of or a few committees in which you at least have a little bit of experience with at some point in your life. I mean, you yourself, you've run a restaurant for 3 decades. Talk about your challenges and how you are overcoming them in this, these crazy times.
Well, one of the things I have, I'm very fortunate. I have the best staff in the business, bar none.
Makes a difference.
And they've been able to adjust to the processes, to this. I mean, this last year has been catastrophic for many people. It's certainly been, life-changing for many people. And processes that keep businesses open. I mean, Gary, 800 businesses, 800 restaurants in the state of Connecticut have closed over the last year. 800. That's a hit that I don't know that any other industry has taken on that level. And, we got to work hard to get that back because, that's the restaurants are kind of the feel-good business of Main Street, where people go and gather and, you have the din and the music and good food and drink and conversation. And, you know, and I think a lot of people are missing that whole thing, you know, because, you know, COVID fatigue is definitely setting in and people want to get out. So hopefully we can turn that around and things are going to look better.
Well, and people are getting vaccinated and the weather is turning and things are starting to reopen. I couldn't agree more. We're speaking with State Senator Paul Formica. The stress, however, on restaurateurs, you know, it's high to begin with, even without the coronavirus. Talk about your family, how your family has been able to help your business survive. Because let me tell you, if you don't have the backing of your family, I mean, that's everything. You know, when your family's on the same page.
I was very fortunate. I opened my business with just my wife and I in 1983, and we worked together and grew the business from a 600 square foot single family home. It's now about 9,500 square feet, and you know we have 45 employees that are just terrific. And my two daughters. Two of my daughters are in the business and starting to take over. The business has been woman-run pretty much for the last few decades.
Yeah,
I have you know managers that have been with me 25 years. And, you know their kids are working. You know, so it's a tight-knit organization that really helps. And you know, they're like family. They are family. And
sure.
You know, my daughter came back from New York. She was a GM at a steakhouse on the Upper East Side, and she brought that toughness into the business a little bit. But she treats everybody with love and compassion. And my youngest daughter's a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America.
Wow.
So she's in the kitchen, and you know, and I can't emphasize enough a great staff.
It runs in the family. Let me tell you, family businesses is really where it's at. And I always wanted to open up a business with my little guy, with my son, and hopefully someday we'll be able to do that. Senator, I know that you are also the co-chair of the Bipartisan Tourism Caucus. If you can talk about the impact that tourism has had on Connecticut's economy and why we should help it thrive, particularly this year. We can't have another year like last year.
No, we can't. You know, it's 130,000 jobs in the state of Connecticut. As I said, 800 restaurants, you know, closed, you know, either for good or for extended period of time. And listen, we need to compete with surrounding states. You know, Rhode Island has a larger tourism fund than we do. Boston does. New York, we all know. Everybody knows that sign in New York, right? With the apple. You know, that's branding. And that's what we have so much to offer here in Connecticut. It's such a great state with our shoreline and, you know, our places that we can go hiking and the museums and arts and culture. And, you know, tourism is a big business. It's a big industry. And for every $1 that the state invests in marketing tourism, they return $3 in tax revenue. Forget about the 6, 7, or 8 to 1 that happens in the community when somebody comes in and from another town and, you know, they buy gas or they buy you know, something at the convenience store. They go to a restaurant, they go to a movie, they go to a museum. That's a higher return. But for the state, this is one of the few investments that we can make to help our budget, to help move forward. And, you know, that money is funded by the tax on the hotel occupancy tax. And as you know, in the last year, that's been way down. And when we established that, you know, some years ago, it was, I think you might have been there when we established it. It was, you know, $13 million, $14 million that we were supporting tourism, $5 million of which goes to marketing our state to places like Boston and Philadelphia, New York, Albany, Providence. Get people here. But I think what we're going to see, Gary, is a lot of people within the state of Connecticut traveling within the state of Connecticut until things get real comfortable. And there's so many places to see. And, you know, we have to, you know, it's a necessary investment. And I think we have to find a way to supplement it because that hotel tax didn't generate, you know, what it needed to generate in the last year. So, you know, we have this American Rescue Plan money. There are some good things we can do with it. I caution, you know, the governor and the administration to be careful with this. This could be transformational I mean, this is $9 billion coming to the state between money to residents, money to towns, money to education, and money to state government. You know, if we play our cards right, we could eliminate our deficits forever, I think. And, you know, so we just have to be smart, provide the opportunity for people to come see our great state and promote us. Because, listen, we live in the greatest country in the world. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this is a pretty damn good state. And there's a lot going for us. We focus on the negative a lot. But, you know, we're offering a better way from our side of the aisle. And we like to have that conversation on many issues. And you know what it's like.
Oh, I know. I just want people to vote in more Republicans, and we can really see the potential of this state. You know, and as well as the hospitality industry was really hit hard over the last year in the coronavirus. People were not having, you know, weddings. People are not attending bars and going out and socializing and staying in, and consequently staying in hotels. You know, when you travel, on vacation. We're talking about tourism a moment ago, and it's going to be great for people to have staycations this year. But people have friends and family and property in other states, and let's face it, sometimes it takes plane travel, and that had been shut down for quite a while. How do you think the hospitality industry will rebound over the next year?
Well, one thing that I think is good that we have going for us is the underlying economy, I think, is so much stronger than it was during the Great Recession. Coming out of the Great Recession was, you know, you're trudging through it almost like you're walking through mud. It took years, and I'm not sure that Connecticut's even recovered fully from that one. But I think underlying this economy is a little bit, a lot better. And I think people, once consumer confidence comes in, again, you know, you and I talked about the air purification system we put in our restaurant.
The Aeris, Vinny.
I thank you. I thank you for that connection.
Pleasure.
Those are the kind of things that install consumer confidence, and we have to continue to do. But tourism brings people to the state. Arts, culture, entertainment keep people coming back. And those are the facilities that have been closed down because you can't sit shoulder to shoulder at the Bushnell or the Guard, and museums are closed, and we need the confidence to have those open and give people an opportunity to come here, and that's what we're working on, and that's what I think we have to have, because it's a great driver of economics, but it's also who we are as people, how we feel. I mean, and arts and culture is really where it's at, and the restaurant business, as we talked about it before. So we get our hotels filled, we get, people coming to the beaches, and, we find ways to increase consumer confidence, being safe until, we believe that this is past, and that's what we got to do.
I can't thank you enough for your time this morning. As a state representative, my former colleague and yours, Jay Case, is on Facebook, and he says, thanks for all your work, and thanks for your work as well, Jay. Keep up the good fight, Senator. We really appreciate it, and let's get this state open and open at 100%. And I think that's going to be the next big step that your constituents are waiting for. We'll talk soon. State Senator Paul Formica, absolutely, thank you. We're coming right back to your phone calls. Start dialing right now. All lines are open.